Well, where's the money going to come from? We're talking billions and tens of billions of dollars required to upgrade the grid and to put in all of the necessary facilities to operate it in the way that we're expected to. I would say that it's just going to be difficult to find that amount of money in any short order, and then explaining the return on investment you're going to get from that. This is, in simple terms, this is going to be the challenge there, really.
I would say it's probably more from a regulatory standpoint than it is from an actual financial standpoint. I think utilities have a unique opportunity that we have ready access to capital if we can show that there's value to what we want to do. But getting our regulators and stakeholders within our various jurisdictions to really understand the value of what we're doing, that will be the constructive tension in terms of how we are able to secure the financial capital to get the return that we need based on the value that we deliver.
We have, there is plenty of investment to be had, so I don't think we lack investment. The financial challenge really stems from some of the regulatory uncertainty. Until we have regulatory certainty in all jurisdictions that a utility operates in, what it does is that level of uncertainty ends up affecting a utility's ability to raise capital and what their cost of capital is. So I think the way to get over some of our financial hurdles is to have some clear rules that all states will operate under. Right now we are going state by state, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, and I think the regulatory uncertainty is causing issues for us in the financial markets.
Well, I think reinvesting in our infrastructure is going to cost money, and particularly right now with the state of our economy and where it's been in the last 2 years, ensuring that we can do it in a way that improves and shows the value to our customers, but also uses that money very wisely is really important.
Well, I think it's partly the same answer. I think as we understand these technologies and we understand the real business case or the value they provide, when that value is more understood, then I think the financial aspects of getting that technology in place get a lot clearer. Right now, it's not clear to the utility side, and it's not clear even to consumers in the regulatory structure what the true value of some of this new technology is. So you don't really know what the investments are or what they need to be until we get some of that sorted out with real field testing and demonstration.
Well, the federal government, with the Recovery Act, has put in a significant investment in the smart grid with the $4.5 billion that the Department of Energy has awarded. There are matching funds there, but from the private sector. But so that's a total of about an $8 billion investment. But depending on which study you believe, the smart grid ultimately is going to cost between $160 billion and $400 billion. And so that money really has to come, from the private sector, both investors and ratepayers who are going to see benefits in terms of better ability to manage their energy usage and control their costs. So making sure that there's a sound business case for investors and that consumers see the benefits in their pocketbooks and improved quality of life is going to be very, very key to making the financial resources available to do the smart grid.
There are many financial challenges at this time. Given the down economy that's just now rebounding, we have the issue of finding available capital, and it varies. You see, we have a mix of utility types. We have investor-owned utilities that can go to Wall Street or big banking organizations. You have municipal governments that can issue bonds, but it's difficult to do when there are so many other issues related to running a municipal government at this time. They have lower tax revenues. So it's a down time for smart grid investments for munis, but they are forging ahead. And the reason they're forging ahead is it will make their residents more effective users of energy and offer a better and more reliable supply of electricity. And with the co-ops, the rural co-ops who number over 900 of these organizations, and they serve millions of Americans, the co-ops can go to the federal government. to obtain loans, and they can ask their members whether they should be investing in smart grid activities. And of course, many of those organizations are doing so. So a lot of the smart grid developments are really going on despite a fairly poor economy, one that is rebounding. We see capital expenditures up almost 10% this year, which is really outstanding, and that's among the big utilities, and the smaller ones will follow, especially as the price curve for technology investments comes down.
This is a very capital-intensive industry. The decisions that are made on the grid deployment up front are going to have long-lasting ramifications. MIRO essentially comes out of the telecommunications industry, so we've been through this before. We know how it works. And you really do have to be very, very, very precise up front in terms of your network deployment, because once it's there, it's very, very hard to change it. So I think that that's going to be the greatest financial challenge, is being right with that deployment and getting it right the first time because of the capital investment in it.
Oh yes, I think the municipals are beginning to face revenue shortfalls. I think the IOUs already face those, but the municipals now, when their city governments are facing reduced revenues, it is now having an impact pretty strongly on municipal utilities. So I don't think we're out of the recession yet. I think state governments and municipals are now really facing budget cuts. They always lag a year or two behind. I do think the economy is improving. The next big financial challenge, I think, is that the price of oil is going to continue to go up, which will make the price of gasoline go up, which will drive an interest in electric cars, either hybrids or total electric vehicles, and that's going to put pressure on utility distribution systems and actually our pricing systems.
Again, I think that really it's a market driver, and the economies of scale in the market I don't believe have been achieved quite yet. So financially, as we're moving forward, one of the things we're trying to do is work with other utilities, making sure that our vision of the smart grid aligns with some others so that there's actually economies of scale across the market, such trying to bring down the price and cost of some of this equipment as we move forward.
One of the things that actually Cisco had written last year, and they had paralleled it to the internet, birth of the internet, one of the most significant challenges is actually not utilities not placing orders and not willing to take the failures with the successes and holding back. What happens is with the vendors is that less investment, less progress is being made, and that's probably going to start to slow down the smart grid. More investment, more risk is being taken by the utility, but the faster we'll get to the end full smart grid.
Again, we're talking about infrastructure change that's going to take not only years, but possibly decades, because the infrastructure is fairly large. It's going to take a lot of capital, and it has to be, as a society as a whole, we have to value these changes and be able to be willing to pay for these changes.
Being able to explain and demonstrate the return on investment. It's one thing to bring a lot of money to this industry. The question is, where do you and how do you show that the investments being made will actually pay back? The challenge facing a lot of the investors is they don't see the sort of a return on investment time frame that is reasonable, that is acceptable, because a lot of the smart grid initiatives right now are in pilot mode, and because they're in pilot mode, it's kind of hard to say where will the market settle long term. And once you can tackle that, I think things will be better. The other financial issue kind of ties into the political issue, which is that of uncertainty. We need to have policies in place that are long-term, that would allow investors to be much more sure of their investments, and that would also allow them to have a level of certainty that in the long term they will recoup their investment.